Hello everybody, this is Josh Wright from Gardening the Right Way. Today we're going to take a stroll on the old Assinippi Cobblers path. This is a footpath that connects Assinippi at the junction of Hanover and Norwell, Massachusetts, to sort of the far end of Bowker Street, also in Norwell. The cobblers worked in Assinippi, but lived on Bowker Street, and they would take this footpath, cart path, between where they worked and where they lived, once in the morning, once in the evening. It's quite a commute. What's sort of cool is it's truly a footpath. So the upper portions are a cart path, but the lower portions are truly a footpath. So it never really developed into a road, and we'll talk about that more later. But I have my companions Mario and Monarch, and I'll post the map and everything in the comments below. And let's take a walk. There's lots of treasures in here. I'm going to turn the camera around because you're not here to see me. You're here to see this. Let's go. It's spring 2021, April, mid-April. Pretty wet. Finally got some rain. Come on, guys. Come on. Come on, you goober. Let's go. When you're traveling through this little path here, there's all these big rocks. These are pre-erratics. Granite stones spit out by the glaciers as they receded. And there's these little ones in the ground, or bigger ones. In general, in these big open areas, you won't really see big, huge ones. Anything really big and huge is generally quarried at ground level for use for stones, steps, foundations, fence posts, cobblestones, all that good stuff. Let's go. Let's go. Mario forgot that hole is deeper than you think. It's like one of those prank videos. Anytime you're traveling in New England and you see these stone walls in the middle of the forest, all these stones came up out of the fields, which are the middle. And all these trees that you see here, all these trees, every single one of these trees were not here in the 1800s. So 100 or so years ago, none of this was here. It was all clear cut. This was just one big field. And these stone walls were the separations between fields, but the stones came out of the fields in between. Hey, let's go. Let's go. all these free erratics spit out by the glaciers. Some pretty big ones here. This is a pretty big opening in the wall here. This is probably more moved as a function of testing this land for parking it to see if it's good for house building. These trails are well marked by the town of Norwell. There's a bunch of different loops and spins that we can take, but they all have that nice sign on it. Let's go. Through this section here, it is wide like a cart path. It's a pretty flat section. So in this section here, probably oxen and carts were used to pull whatever they were doing out here in the fields, whether it was sheep or cows, maybe some hay. But because this area is also part of the Norwell water supply, it's pretty well protected. So there's some good treasures back here that we'll see in a little bit as we get down the way. There's a big stone there, not mined for whatever reason. Probably because, see that arc there? It probably just wasn't going to split like they wanted it to split. Monarch's okay with it. But let's go look at this stone behind here. This one also, there's a vein running through it there, and it's split. Probably they tried. Yeah, this is cut here. There's the marks here where they would put a chisel in to create a split, and they probably split it and weren't happy with the grain of the stone or how it was going to split up into usable parts, so they decided to just leave it. Part of the treasure of this forest is there's a lot of American holly just growing natively back here. There's one there. There's a big one in behind there. If you were to plant these in your yard, that'd be $1,000 holly right there. American hollies don't really produce a bunch of berries like you would think for blue hollies and so forth. There's a straggler from winter just hanging in there. Usually they would pink up and the cardinals and other birds would eat them off, but that's a straggler that didn't pink up, and it probably won't produce a viable seed either. Come on, let's go. There's lots of forks on the road on these trails. You can take either one. They all lead to the same place. Imagine, none of these trees were here. All of these trees are new in the past 120 years or so. We'll come across a couple that are older, but nothing more than 100 years old. Come on, let's go. There are some nice beech trees in here though. So that's a beech tree. That's older. This was probably all beech in here. We'll get to a stand where there's lots of beech. But those beech would have all been cut down and used because their nice white wood was great for hat boxes and shoe boxes. Abington had lots of sawmills. Norwell and Hanover had some sawmills from the shipbuilding trade, but those beech trees were highly valued for their nice wood, and all the big ones are gone. We'll come on one towards the end of the walk that's older, and we'll hypothesize why it's still there. Big valley here. As we start to drop down into the valley here, where it's marshy and wet, this is really the extent of the stone walls and where the fields would end. From this point on, it would have probably not been farmed because it was too wet and really not super good for growing stuff, too hilly for putting livestock on. There's some stone walls, but not many. Come on guys, let's go. There's another big stone there. Big old rock, same thing. Probably didn't split the way they wanted to. It's way down here in the woods. Long way out to cart it out for something they just decided were a little less valuable. If you're stuck at stay-at-home learning, seeing these tree roots, great places to explore a little real world science. Out here, how the shallow roots of this big old hemlock just grab those stones in under there and work all in under here. There's probably a spring right in here, so it really enjoyed where it was at. This hemlock was probably killed by a woolly Adelgid, which we'll talk about later, but it's gone forever. So this tree here, this is a hemlock. Nice rough bark here, but it's probably doomed. There's a little bit of foliage way up at the top there. You can look around in the canopy and you can see there's more hemlocks kind of through here. There's a little one over there, but there's not many. They're all being wiped out by a little itty bitty bug called the woolly Adelgid. Pretty hard to control in these forest settings. There is a chemical that'll get rid of it, but again, because this is public water supply, they're probably not treating this forest. It's too bad. Capture them here on video because they'll be gone in 50 years, completely gone from here. Cool little bridge through here. Rough sawn with a chainsaw in half, milled and bolted together. Gets us over the wash here. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Psst. We've gone from cuckoo to mellow. Let's go. Too rocky too hilly for really farming. So here's another find. It's a birch tree. I'll tell, of course, by the birch bark that's peeling off here. It's been raining for a couple of days, so it's all dark, but you can see it right in there. Nice white birch bark. Nice tall one. Big, huge, tall one. But again, this is a pretty young tree. Best case scenario, maybe 30 years old, 40 years old. Not much more. Let's go, Mario, let's go. looks like rocks. Just looks like rocks on the hill down here. But this really means that at one point, a million years ago or whatever, right here, as far up as you can see, it was a glacier. It was melting and it's spitting out stones. Just spitting them out. And these guys, these big guys, were resting up there in the ice and they dropped down as the glacier receded. But it just looks like stones, but the magnitude of a wall of ice there, as tall as the trees, just spitting out granite stones as it melted away. Come on, let's go. Pretty cool little forest here. It's very wet down there and swampy. Lots of hemlocks. But again, see how some of them are yellowish? That's indicative of the Adelgid damage. That one looks pretty good there. Okay. I don't see the white spots. The wet will keep them healthier for a little bit longer. Come on, let's go. Nice American holly here, arching over. We're getting into a section with some young beech trees. There's beech and maple through here, hemlock, holly. Definitely not a cart path here. Excuse me. Can we? I guess we cannot not be stupid. Let's go. Crazy dog. Definitely not a cart path. There's another path up there on the ridge. I'll probably use more than this one. We'll be back on that footpath. From this point on, it's just footpath. There's no cart path through here. This just would be truly the cobbler's run. On the lowlands now. See all the water in there. Hemlocks. Excuse me. Monarch. Thanks. Nice American holly there. Some birch. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And now we're back to the footpath. If you ever lived in Norwell, or you do live in Norwell, and wondered where your water came from, it comes from here, largely. There's other wells more up by Mount Blue, but Norwell is pretty wet. There's springs, and they're hidden in there, but this is one of them. I'll get across this little river here. You don't fall in. Seems all right. So, kids, this is pretty cool. So we'll pause here for a minute. We're back by that stream that we just came through without falling in, which was great. But these guys here, these are blueberries. It's nice. You can sort of identify them by their sort of peely, barky stems. And then the new stems, so you can get there. The new stems are bright green like that. And in the springtime, you'll see these nice little buds coming out. So they're all through here, all growing in the swamp. Good eating back here, no chemicals, no nothing. Blueberries, got a treat back here. Let's go, Mario. Let's go. Monarch, let's go. Monarch, let's go. Hey. I'm not going that way. I'm going this way. It's pretty cool in here. It's a baby American holly, baby white pine, baby Mario. All wet through there, all swamp, not buildable. Probably not too bad for mosquitoes either, because there's lots of wildlife back here to keep everything in check. Let's look at this hemlock, see if there's any Adelgid here. I can show you. There's one. Get in on it. That little white spot right there is an Adelgid. These guys right there. There's the little Adelgid down in there. We'll get a better view later. But these guys, I'm gonna kill this hemlock and all the hemlocks around it. Oh, look at that one. All right, hang on a sec. We gotta do something different with dogs and cameras. So this is what I mean about treasures being back in here. Behind me, a 50-foot American holly. That guy right there. Big, huge American holly. Wow, it's really cool. Pretty huge. It's hiding under this oak tree over here. And we're going to talk about in other videos sort of why these plants are here. The myth is that the oak and the holly and the pine are all here because, or that they're making them. So we're going to talk about it in another video that sort of, excuse me, I'm talking here. So we're going to talk about it in another video, sort of why these plants are here and the acidity of soil. But the myth is that these oak trees and pine trees are creating the acid soil. But the reality is they're here because of the acid soil. So they enjoy the acid soil, which is created by the granite, which is underlying. But we'll talk more about that in another video. So I keep finding treasures. There's some winterberry here. Just coming through the leaf litter. There's a winterberry. Where is it? There it is there. There's another one hiding under an oak leaf. Some nice winterberries. There's one over there. They're all coming through, and those nice red berries, they're peeking through, and the critters will find them. And move them to where they might get pollinated. So the critters will find them. Like this critter here. Excuse me. The critters will find them and gobble them up, eat the fleshy fruit, and then poop out the seeds someplace else in the forest and help it spread. Cool. All right, let's go. Mar, can we go? Beaches. Nice little stand of beaches here. Good day at the beach. Dad joke there for you. So many treasures in here. Hang on, I'm gonna spin the camera around again. Dogs are probably ready to kill me. So I wanted to show you this. This tree behind me literally got torn apart by a storm. But you can see it. It's been torn a couple of times over time. This is a really old injury. But you can see that the way the bark spins around like this. In this spot here, see it's split there, split around here, and eventually it succumbed to the eventually it gave in to Mother Nature. But this tree here has always been in a twisty, spinny spot, and that injury right there is from a long time ago. So it got there, it got twisted, it split, and it kept on growing. And then 50 years later, this storm came along, took the top right off, threw it over there. Kind of cool. Oh, hello. You ready to go? Alright, let's go. Come on, let's go. So this is truly part of the Assinippi Cobblers Path. We'll talk about this contraption here in a different video. But it's astounding that this tree survived this and just kept right on going. Alright, let's go. This is truly part of the path, like I was saying. It's oh boy. There's a hemlock here. Nice big stand of hemlocks here. Some white pine behind there. Big American holly. Lots of big hollies here. But you can see the path is kind of graded up away from the swamp, so you don't get wet feet on the way to work. But it's just a footpath. It's not really wide enough for a cart. The cobblers would just walk through here. The story goes that the cobblers would kind of set out before the sun came up and came home after the sun came down. But that you could always tell like everything was right with the world because you'd see the cobblers' lanterns coming up this footpath over the hill in the morning, and you'd see them trundling home in the evening. And some Norwell history indicates that that was just sort of a mark of the day. See the cobblers traversing the cobbler path. Some more beeches here. We'll talk about beeches again in a little bit. It's a cool walk. It's pretty hidden. There's a cul-de-sac on one end. There's a gate on the other end. Here's a tree. We'll talk about more about these in a different video, but these are princess pine. Little bitty plants. Don't think about digging these up. Oh, look at that one just coming up. Don't think about digging them up. They're protected in the state of Massachusetts. This one's just coming into bloom here. There's the bloom right on top. Look at that. Just kind of magnificent. Right at your feet. Never noticed them on most walks. Let's go. Big huge hemlock here. Look at that. Except it's not a hemlock. There's a hemlock down below growing right at the base. And then it's a white pine. There's a golf ball. It seems not natural. White pines are okay, but same thing here. None of these white pines are older than 100 years. They would have all been milled for boards for ships like the Constitution or other boats that were built in the boat building industry. So every tree you see, same thing here. Every tree you see wasn't here 100 years ago. a curious little spot on the trail here. I've never really dug into why it's here. It's definitely more ornate, but there's not a foundation in there. There's not really something. Could just be somebody felt like putting a little bit of artistry in there, but it is backfilled up to it, so it was something. Maybe it was going to be a cemetery or something like that, but it doesn't appear to be now. Come on, let's go. That's American holly here. These little spots right there, we'll talk about those in a different video. Pretty common on American holly. Not really a big deal if you have a holly with them. Just leave it be for the most part. Lots of brambles in there, hiding all the understory. Some young beech. There's a nice big hemlock. You can tell the hemlock because of the craggly sort of branches at the bottom. White pine won't have them. That's a pretty big one. That's a 50-footer. At least. It might be more. 75, maybe even 100 feet tall. That's a big deal. So we'll stop at this hemlock here because it's got quite a bit of Adelgid on it. So we can get right in there. These guys here, all these little white spots here. Let's see if it'll focus a little bit. You see that? That's all called the woolly Adelgid. And that little woolly structure, I'll go into more detail later, but that little woolly structure in there sort of protects them from any sort of cold, but also any sort of insecticide, topical insecticide, or even weather that tries to get rid of it. So it's pretty well protected, but it'll get in there and basically shut off the water structure of this hemlock and kill it all the way, all forest. It's pretty sad. Ooh, sorry. A lot of storm fall through here. Forest gets weaker. It's harder for it to be resilient against storms. Come on, this way. Where is the beaver? Let's go check this out. This is the beech. It's been chopped down pretty high up for a beaver, but there's enough root left that it's going to sprout up again. No, it's definitely beaver. I don't know where he thought he was going with it. There's the other end. Not really area for a dam around here. Kind of curious. Well, could be kids, but it looks like a beaver to me. Could have happened when there was lots of snow cover. So we're going to pause at this beech tree right here. Probably the oldest one in the whole walk. So beech trees have this nice smooth, super duper smooth bark on it. It's like an elephant foot. It's like a big old elephant foot. It makes that sound almost like you would expect an elephant to sound like. But it's super smooth, whether it's older or more juvenile like this. But that super smooth skin, or bark as it were, sort of lends itself to folks, young and old, to carve their name into it. So this big, huge beech tree here, this is the oldest one in this forest that I'm aware of. And it's really two. So it's not one, but it's two, kind of together. You can see there's a split here, so it was probably two growing side by side. And they grew up and they grew together. All these furrows in here, all these sort of nicks and cuts. This is an F from 50 years ago, maybe, carved into the bark here. You can see it as it ages. They stay in there. What's good is the beech tree will survive that, because this is not really the viable part of the tree. Now you can kill a beech tree by carving all the way around and in really deep, but these are all still pretty much on the surface. I love this stuff where there was once a branch and it's just sort of healed over it. It really reminds you of an elephant or an elephant foot. Pretty good at healing itself up. We'll talk about healing later on. Sometimes our favorite pastime, even in the summertime, is to stand against a beech tree. They'll be open in the middle, and we'll look at beech trees in the summertime, but they're open all the way up, right in the middle. Good climbing tree if you can get a hold of them. Usually pretty thick, good and solid. Pretty cool tree. So this is kind of effectively the end of the cobbler's path here. We'll come out by the town wells. No dumping back here. But you can see this path is really not wide enough for a cart. Doesn't have those ridges in it like a cart path would normally have. It's been disturbed here, of course, where they put the well in. Probably they fiddled up in there with a digger or something at some point. This is pretty cool. Go check this out. This beech is starting to emerge. The leaves are starting to emerge. Have this cool brown covering to the bud as they start to emerge. And the leaves are all packed up tightly under there. But they come out, and it's that copper outer leaf structure as they start to emerge. And then the leaves will be green all season long. And then in the fall they'll turn copper brown again, almost that color, like over there on that dried beech there. And then most of them will drop off, but beeches retain their leaves, at least in part, over the course of the winter. Some more nice American holly here on the end of the walk. Here's those beech, not quite as far along. Some more of those beech buds just starting to come out. Pretty cool. Let's go. A cedar in here. You can see it, but in there is, see the red? That's cedar. A little stand of cedar in there. Those would have been all cut down and gobbled up for cedar chests and cedar linings on boxes. summer sweet. We'll talk about that again. Some more blueberries. I'm all budded up. Right there. These are all going to be good blueberries. If you can get back here before the birds get them, they'll be delicious. Some more blue bush, high bush blueberry. All natural in there. All enjoying the wet. Let's go. Let's go. So that's it. We'll end it kind of there. The end of the cobbler's path from Assinippi and Norwell and Hanover all the way down to Bowker Street in Norwell. Lots of treasures in the forest there. Lots of history. Lots of cool things to find. I'll put a link to the map in the comments below and some other good links down there. And I appreciate you watching. It's one of my favorite little hidden treasures, and glad I could share it with you. Don't forget to click the subscribe button down here or here. And like this video if you liked it. Put your comments down below and I'll respond as quick as I can. Thanks. We'll see you on the next journey.